Hello everyone, today's December 12th, 2023. We'll back into this low spot. Welcome everyone. I'm going to try to show you what I started out with. This is the truck, the 1990, my personal welding truck today. Parts needed to be found to make it into a 6x4 or 4x6. 6 wheels, 4-wheel drive. So I had to find another front axle. And I also had to find brackets that go to the frame to the leaf spring. And it came off of another truck, a single rear wheel drive. The hanger brackets were in great shape. And then I had to also find, and I did years and years ago, a transfer case. It came out of 1973 to 1977 Ford truck remote transfer case. The bracket that holds the transfer case, it was an original bracket for the truck and the transfer case for the 1977 truck or older. Had to modify it. That way it would fit up in the chassis. And the grommets and the bolts for the bracket can be purchased at Summit Racing. And other parts for seals and bearings could be purchased at Jeff's Bronco Graveyard or Randy's Ring and Pinion. It had to be tore down, and the detent balls that catch that shaft that you see needed to be cleaned. Had to tear it all the way down and inspect all the gears. This year of truck, Ford did not make a super cab dually 4-wheel drive that year. I don't know when they started doing it, but I wanted that year, and I wanted to have to make it custom made. All the gears, they're in good shape when I got it tore apart. Like I said, it's just the bearings that needed to be replaced. And there is a detent ball in a shaft when you shift, and rust and probably dirt had gotten up in there over the years because the seals were bad that cover the shaft. Had to take everything apart and clean it out, put new springs in there, and the new balls where the detent is. What it is when you pull the lever forward, the ball will push away, and then when it finds a curved spot in that shaft, then it stops right there, and everything needed to be cleaned up. At this point, I'm tearing down the center piece of it there. There's a shaft in there and an idler gear. And yeah, all that has to come out, and make sure them gears are cleaned up. Inspect any roller bearings that are in there, and Just get it all nice and cleaned up. But that's what that is. That shaft is an idler. There's a gear that rolls in there, and it keeps the two outside gears balanced so that there's no wobbling back and forth when the shifting goes on, because there's a high and a low in there when you shift from high and low and then into two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. Alright, at this point I'm getting ready to work on that detent ball. There's a cap right there, and getting it out, and that's where the springs are in there in the ball. The shaft, there's two shafts that come out that front there, and your shifter will hook up to it, and it maneuvers it a certain way so that it's either in four-wheel drive or it's in two-wheel drive, and it'll maneuver it a different way so that it's in high or low, the gear spinning ratio. And that's where the little ball is, and it slides into that shaft where it's curved, and then when it's totally round, that ball backs up and goes into its little pocket, and it's just been all nice and dirty in there, and it needs to get cleaned up. I think the springs were broke, and that's why it wouldn't stay in place, and it was always jumping out of gear. So that's what I needed to do, is clean it up so that the spring would hold it in place. Well, got it all put back together, the transfer case. I'm getting ready to put it back in. You can also see above the bracket there, that is the original bracket. I had to cut it and make it fit so that it was higher up into that chassis underneath the floor pan, and reinforced it a little bit. You can stop the video and study it a little bit and see how I did that. This is just another picture before the undercoating went on, but you can see the bracket again. This is the back side of the transfer case where the driveline hooks up going to the rear axle. This picture is a front view of that remote transfer case. The shaft on the top is the shaft that goes to the transmission and over to the transfer case. And in this next picture coming up, it's going to show the view of that transfer case shaft between the transmission, and then the shaft below it is going to the front axle, and the transmission bracket, you can see it has a curve in it so that there's room for movement of that drive shaft going to the axle. In this picture, I had to make the custom shifter for that transfer case. Some of the pieces are original. The shaft was for a 1990 shaft, but I had to put a special knob on it and adjust it so it would shift right. The shifter rod right there controls everything, and it pivots off of that. There's a plate right here to reinforce that bolts to it, but it pivots off of up there. There is brass bushing in the bolt. It's been greased so it can rotate back and forth. But I got an adjustment right here as well, so I can get the linkage right. It just misses everything. And you see the transmission bracket, it's looped, so there's room for the drive shaft. Also, where the shift rod comes through the floorboard, that was their factory, but there was a plate over it, and it had to be removed It was glued in there real good with some epoxy. And then I took a rubber boot over the top. You can buy them also at a lot of different places. LMC truck, Jeff's Bronco Graveyard. And it just screws right back down into place. You'll notice the difference in the rotation of the speed of the drive shaft in the center there of the picture. It'll spin just a little bit faster than the one on the bottom of the picture. It's in low, four-wheel drive low. And then after I'm done doing that, you'll notice that the drive shaft in the center of the picture will spin almost the same as the one in the bottom of the picture, and that's four-wheel drive high. Alright, now I'm going to shift it into two-wheel high. You'll see the top drive shaft spinning and the bottom drive shaft's not spinning. Yeah, it's rolling a little bit on the bottom. That's just because of oil. It's still cold, the transfer case is. It'll spin with it just a little bit. So what I've got here is the shifter knob. And I believe Jeff's Bronco Graveyard has these. It's for the new process, 205. And the Ford. And as you can see, forward is 4 low, and then you got neutral, and then you got two-wheel drive high, and then all the way back is four-wheel drive high. And what I like doing is shifting that all the way back to 4 high and then popping it forward just a little bit, and I know that it's in two-wheel drive. And the shifter, the stick, it's original. I've had to modify it a little bit. I had to thread the shaft. I'm pretty sure I did. I drilled a hole down in it and then tapped it. And then I took a grade 8 bolt and threaded down into that. Put some Loctite on it. And then I threaded that knob onto it and then put a jam nut underneath it so that it doesn't come off. Leave it there. That's where it's at. But it feels good. 4 high is good. It pops out really easy though if you want it to. It's in neutral. It's in. It's in there. I mean, you got to pull on it to get it to pop out. There, it popped out. That's neutral. That's four-wheel drive high. And I just popped it forward just a little bit. And that's two-wheel high. And after watching that video of me working on that transfer case, that was done a couple of years ago. And now I'm out here working on the fence, and I decided I wanted to show you it being used. I found a spot on the farm that I can give you a little shot of it being used. If it don't work, I'm gonna have to get the tractor, that's for sure. But working on the fence, and I got my welding leads, my welder, and I've got the high tensile wire. I like using high tensile wire. I'll use about 6 strands. Some of those strands, 1 or 2 of them, I'll electrify it for hot wire, you know, electric fence. And I like using metal for the corner post. That way I can pull on it real hard. It doesn't decay on me. And I got everything here in case I need to work on it. But I'll show you this corner post a little closer, and gives anybody else any inspiration or ideas. It'd be awesome to help you guys out what I've done. If you can see here, it's metal, and I got at the bottom in the ground, if I get out of the way here, in the ground there's a rod welded to that post, a rebar rod that hangs out. I think there's 2 of them in there, and they're 180 degrees away from each other, and it's concreted right at the bottom. That way it won't pull out. And then I put that tubing right there so that I can wrap the tie, the twist tie, this here, when you tighten it up to pull it up against the fence so that it won't lift above it. If you can see that right there, there's a little tubing right there. There's one on the other side as well, and it helps hold that wire, this wire right here that gets twisted, and then it tightens up this post here and keeps it straight. And that's how I do it. Go drive around a little bit, check the rest of the fence, and if you hear the gears in there chatter, that's the transfer of the noise through the clutch and the drive line. I'm gonna back the truck down in here. I've been down in here once. I want to do it again. When I back down, this is the high point of the hill. And where my hand is, that's the clearance I got on the transfer case mounted to the truck. The back of the bed, there's probably 6 to 8 inches of clearance before it hits the ground. This is the angle of what the truck looks like just sitting still on the hillside. But anyways, this is a wet area here that drainage comes into it, and right now it's dry. There's been a lot of ditching that we've been doing in the last 5 or 6 years in this area, and it's helped a lot to me. I'm going back into this low spot. I used to take the tractor and drive it down in here and mow. It is low. It's probably, I don't know, 6 foot, and then about a 45-degree angle climb. I'm in 4-wheel drive. Now I got front lockers. They are Yukon lockers. Didn't have any problem getting in. And the rear is front lockers, rear Yukon lockers. It's a Ford Dana 10 1/4. It is wet down there a little bit. I'll walk down there and show you. The tires did sink a little bit, but I do have mud tires on the truck. They are Maxxis Buckshot 2 is the tire brand, and the truck weighs about 10,000 pounds. And it did sink in here a little bit. If I had a two-wheel drive, I'd been stuck. If I had lockers in the rear, it's possible it would have made it out. If somebody was to have just lockers in the rear, it's possible it would make it out with aggressive tire. But that front end, having it also, it could have been here first thing in the morning, or there could have been snow on the ground. I've been in locations like that where you needed to get it around, and that's what's good about having a four-wheel drive if you are working on distribution pipeline or on the farm working on fence, right? So I'll show you this tracks that it made. It didn't even break traction. It just, the tires bite so well. And you get back in here and it's sunk a little bit, not much at all, right in here. And it's the driest I've seen it in years right now. But there you go. I appreciate everybody watching, and give me a thumbs up if you liked anything of this video. I appreciate it. It means a lot. Leave any comments of anything that you want to talk about, and see you the next time, and have a great week.